A legal rave, licensed by the local authority, where the £20 tickets promised no illegal substances. But that's impossible. Ecstasy, which is illegal, fuels the rave scene, and we wanted to flush out the drug dealers and the big suppliers. So we got down to basics. With an E for ecstasy in the title, we set up shop and advertised a rave in print and on radio.
Basic Productions are building the rave arenas to rival all others. Put the heat back in the scene with Basic, to be held in lead stuff.
Not that we really wanted to run a rave, but because we wanted to see who would want to supply the E. And it worked. In Holland, a step beyond the dealers to the producers and the wholesalers who dominate the European market.
This is John. This is Mr. Rogers. Hello.
These men were keen to sell us 100,000 tablets, worth £2 million at raves back home. Adding more fuel to the fastest growing and arguably the most worrying drug scene in Britain today. Indeed, one ecstasy tablet can kill.
Now, how much was she given?
One tablet.
With what result?
Well, it was devastating. If you could have seen just what it did to her body, it was unbelievable. Just unbelievable.
Destroyed her.
It
all the organs in her body.
Yeah, every organ destroyed. She bled from every outlet. Her body swelled up to at least 3 times its size. It looked as if you put a pin to her that she would burst. She never opened her eyes. She was on a life support machine, kidney machine. I've never seen so many tubes on one person in all my life. It was devastating to sit and watch. Children today should see something like that. They perhaps wouldn't take it then.
Claire Layton was just 16, and she was killed by an ecstasy tab, either available as a capsule or as a tablet, just like the ones we bought for around £20. Ecstasy is based on a chemical called MDMA, which has the effect of causing the body to abandon its natural limits, to become hyperactive. And that's why devotees can dance all night. There's no doubt they enjoy themselves, as they're entitled to. They don't seem too bothered about the risks. And the risks are real, not just the invention of middle-aged killjoys. Ecstasy, like heroin, is an illegal Class A drug. Raves and ecstasy combine into one culture, where fairground rides are almost obligatory. Of course, not everyone here takes E, but those that do say these rides get E into the system much more quickly. Vicks Vapor Rub is part of the culture too, although it's on sale at double the shop price. Vicks heightens the buzz, they say, especially if it's smeared inside a face mask. E-devotees also know the drug tightens the jaw muscles, so they suck dummies and chew gum. The E-takers tell you that to appreciate all this, you have to be high. That's what, they say, gives the noise, the lights, the whistling and the frenzy even greater effect. To the parents, it's a world apart. Indeed, the night Claire Layton went out, her parents felt reassured by what they were told. It was a fatal misunderstanding.
I collected her from work, moved her home, she went upstairs, I had a shower, got changed, come down, she gave me a kiss. I collected her from the bottom of our door, didn't I? Me and my wife went down the door and I said, oh, you look after her, right? And I said, oh, don't worry, Mr. Layton, we'll look after her for you. You don't drink, you know what I mean? I thought, well, that's half the battle.
But it's not. Instead, E-fans use carbonated soft drinks to enhance the effect and mineral water to combat dehydration. Surveillance film shot in the ladies' restroom at a rave shows the mineral water much in evidence. In 9 hours of surveillance, filmed with police cooperation, drugs dominate the conversation and the action. The blonde girl takes her E-tab out of a cigarette packet. The taste is foul. but she hopes the feeling will be fine. On the dance floor, Special K, a new and even more dangerous drug than ecstasy, is also on offer. This girl has just bought some.
That's not special K, though. Really concentrated. They make you breathe.
The girl on the left has just taken her E-tablet. The girl to her right will now pop hers. There are perhaps 500,000 users of ecstasy in Britain today. One girl who popped her tab earlier returns. It seems to be working. So it's back to the dance floor to let the music take over.
The users are looking forward to a pleasant experience, a high, an enjoyable rave. However, they are running a risk. The people who are taken ill are really ill. They're in intensive care unit. They have pipes and tubes in many parts of them, and people are fighting for their lives. Their parents can't talk to them, and they can't talk to their parents. And at that stage, you often don't know whether they're going to recover or not. It's a very hard fight to bring some of these people back into life.
Betty and Graham Brown mourn a son, aged 18, who took just one tablet.
It's not easy to describe, but at one point I asked the nurse if he could hear what we were saying. And she said, when people are in a coma, the last thing to go is the hearing. And we were talking to him, and my daughter said, look, Mum, he's crying.
As if to say, we're sorry, Mum. I'm sorry, Mum. I'm sorry, Dad.
And a few seconds later he died.
Gwen Hutchinson's son also died, another victim of ecstasy.
Well, it's hard to define what he did or what he was. I mean, I can remember nothing bad about him. Nothing at all. He was a lovely boy, and I loved him, and he loved me, and he loved all his family. He loved all his friends, too, and helped them all he could. And I miss him very much. In fact, we all do. It's terrible to think that he's gone, that he ain't going to open the door anymore.
But her story is different. Her son was an ecstasy dealer, one of the biggest ever exposed.
This was the first major seizure of ecstasy in the country. Police found 100,000 tablets concealed in 3 jerrycans and 2 holdalls in the boot of the wrecked hire car. They'd been smuggled in by sea.
They'd been brought in by Jonathan Hutchinson, who beached the boat here after a bad crossing from Holland. Jonathan and 2 brothers were taking the E to the London dealers they were supplying, but amazingly, Jonathan took an E himself before he drove. 4 of Mrs. Hutchinson's 5 sons. Jonathan is dead. Dan is in jail, and so is William. So Sam agreed to help us expose the men who sold them the drugs in Holland.
John started with cannabis, yeah, and then as he progressed, got some money behind him, he went on to the more exclusive, harder drugs.
What sort of money are we talking about?
Well, hundreds of thousands of pounds.
And what quantity?
With ecstasy, 30,000 to 100,000 tablets, depending on how he was going to ship it.
Sam says he was not involved in drugs himself. He strongly disapproves. But he did visit Jonathan in Holland and knows his way round. He wanted to help us set up the Dutch wholesalers and producers, and then in London to reveal the dealers who bought from his brother and then supplied the Raves.
I've never been to a party, and I've been to over 100 now, where alcohol has been present. And of course the youngster then will tell you, we don't drink, so we pop 2 tablets instead. And they believe they're safe taking ecstasy as opposed to drinking beer, spirits or whatever. So the separation between the two is nearly impossible. In my opinion, there will never ever be a clean rave acid scene party.
Another town, another legal rave licensed by the local authority. The effects of taking E are erratic. Few people die suddenly, but many more are slowly poisoned. In the end, dying from E is like dying from sunstroke from the inside.
By the time they get to hospital, they usually have a very high body temperature, between 40 and 43 degrees, which is, in old units, that's between about 104 and 110 degrees. And that means that people are very close to death from heat stroke when they have a temperature like that.
This time, the teenager has hidden the illegal E tablet in his shoe and is therefore handed over to the police. Ironically, that could be a lucky escape. New evidence from the National Poisons Unit points to E causing long-term brain and liver damage.
It's not until the tap on the door saying that my little boy or girl's been arrested in possession of certain drugs that the reality is driven home. Even then, they don't believe it until they actually see someone down in the custody block.
Or they're dead.
Or they're dead, yeah.
Poison, ecstasy is poison, then take it. Don't even try a little weeny bit of one taking on. It killed my son.
Yeah. Fun, don't get, might be a fun, but there's no fun inside of our hearts now. We're just good. That's fun. If I could show you my feelings on the table, people would understand. They'd have to see it inside of them to understand what it's done.
Their son Brian was 20 and had been taking E for some time.
The last few months, we didn't think it was our lad. He changed completely. There was another person inside him. It was him physically, but there was someone else inside him, and he just changed completely. Couldn't talk to him. But else he chopped back again or something like that. How so far is that, mate?
It was just a nightmare.
Death actually comes to relatively few. However, nobody can be really sure in advance who will suffer a catastrophic adverse reaction, nor what the long-term effect of E might be. And E devotees can't be sure of what they're taking either. We bought 16 E-tabs for testing. 10 proved to be made up of caffeine and amphetamine, sometimes repackaged in emptied antibiotic capsules. So, in effect, those who take E are playing double-barreled Russian roulette. And Coroner Roy Barter, who held the inquest on Brian Moss, says that even if users do buy the right stuff and don't die, they face another problem, the long-term one.
If you survive the one tablet and you get some pleasure from it, then naturally you're going to carry on taking it. And the danger is then, as with any drug, as you take it as the weeks pass, the effect of the drug may well begin to wear off a bit. You're not quite getting the same lift, the same excitement, the same passion that you did the first time. So if you've got the money, if you've got 10 or 20 pounds, to buy a second tablet, you'll buy a second. Well, I know, third tablet as well. Now you're getting up into the danger level. You're now getting to a level where toxicity is a very great danger indeed.
And that very great danger is enhanced by the threat from Holland. Before snaring the man who supplied his brother, Sam Hutchinson was keen to point out the effect that E had had on his family.
A lot of heartbreak. Obviously, you lose one brother and then 2 more are locked up in prison. It's a stressful thing for any family.
What advice would you have to some youngster going to a rave and being offered E?
I'd say stay well clear, and if in the end, it's just going to mess your lives up. You're going to maybe not become dependent on them, but as all drugs, they'll destroy you.
Using Jonathan's contact, Sam arranged for us to meet two of Holland's major suppliers. Posing as big backers of the British rave scene, we asked how much they could supply.
The reason I'm interested is it's a big market in Britain.
You can get 100,000 pieces. If you want more, there's no problem at all. We started now first with 100,000. And it goes well for you and so well for us, you know.
And they'll be, do they come in capsule form or is it a pressed tablet?
Pressed tablet.
Okay. If it goes extremely well, we hope to have shifted these within a month. How many could you do? How many shipments could you do if it goes well?
Depends on you, what you want. 100,000 every 2 weeks or something like that.
That's easy for you, is it? More is necessary?
If you want more, it's necessary.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We gave their names and our evidence to the Dutch police, and then followed the trail through the British dealers to the teenagers who don't want to acknowledge there's a problem with these.
Well, the running danger of going out to a lovely party and coming home mad, which means admission to a psychiatric hospital. They're running the danger of a sort of brain damage which is going to stop them enjoying life for a very long time. We don't know how long these effects last.
Julian Rossiter now faces those long-term effects. In the short term, ecstasy nearly killed him. He'd heard rumours of the risks, but they were blotted out by the drug's much-publicised feel-good factor.
You just feel great. It's like your birthday. It's a nice sensation in your body. You want to dance. That was part of my problem. I should have sat down, but I never. I was dancing. I was all right. I was great. I was being up in the case. Next thing, I think it slowed down for me. It's real slow motion. Then I went into a massive epileptic fit. This was like my heels touching the back of my head and all noise coming out of me. They had me on a breathing machine. And it was so many hours before they turned it off. And they brought the police in twice to give me the last rites. So my mother told me. I didn't know that close till a couple of weeks later. But like he said, if he does survive, his brain could be damaged. If his brain's not damaged, his body will be damaged. Definitely, I think now. But the ones that are still hanging around with, because I feel like I don't knock about with them now. They see tablets for me closer and don't bother. Seeing how bad it was, like, especially Wayne, like, he's there and he seemed to fit, and it was really bad.
LSD for tax, guaranteed, strict names free, no transfer.
In Worcestershire, an illegal rave. Illegal because it was held without anybody's permission.
Come on, I don't want to buy some meat, got rave all night.
Illegal raves are far more frequent than legal ones, and are often literally drug supermarkets. The drug dealers operating unhindered, as if their wares were legal.
I don't think personally that ecstasy should be legalized at all, if indeed there is any movement for its legalization. Because we are dealing with a killer drug, a drug which can and does kill. Kill in an acute form. Kill out of thin air. Kill out of the blue.
In Holland, the attitude to drugs is much more liberal. At this rave, ecstasy bought illegally can be taken without police hindrance to a store called the Safe House. The newly purchased tablets can be tested. If the test turns them brown, they're not ecstasy. And the buyer won't use them. But if the test turns the tabs slate grey, then the tablet does contain ecstasy. So can we in Britain learn from the Dutch experience? In Liverpool, drugs counsellor Alan Parry, himself a former addict, argues that the problem would be better handled if the drug was legalised.
If it was up to me, I would certainly have a period where the drug was decriminalised, where we could analyse the drugs very quickly so we knew exactly what kids were taking, so we could warn them away from the more dangerous ones.
But you can't tell. There is no test to see if you're sensitive. The only test is the ultimate one. You drop dead.
But yeah, and exactly, that's what's happening now. Some kids are dropping dead, and actually more are dying than the figures report. But the fact is, they're determined to do it. The choice is not between doing it and not doing it. If it was legal, the choice would be between buying it off the streets or buying it from a market where the drug is measured, controlled. Then we could test it out.
But of course, making E legal might encourage more people to take it, and at the moment, not everybody does. The parents in tonight's program argue there's no such thing as safe ecstasy. Certainly not in the case of Ian Hazelden. In retrospect, his parents now know Ian's frequent use of ecstasy was behind his violent mood swings.
The people who turn around and say ecstasy should be legalised and should be freely available, they just don't know what they're talking about. They should keep their mouths shut, because ecstasy, whichever way you look at it, is a killer.
As if to recognise the potentially serious problem, most raves these days provide a chill-out area where youngsters can cool down before they go home. But that can be too little, too late.
This drug is a potential killer. The unfortunate part is, of course, that when you talk to youngsters at the street, they think it is a nice, little, safe designer drug, and trying to convince them that they are risking death. And the deaths are at ages between 16 and 24, 25, young, fit, nice, young people, all of a sudden cut off in the midstream of life.
And kids should be advised to keep off of it, stay away from it. And pushers and people like that, they should get life imprisonment as far as I'm concerned. They killed my son. Some scum out there, which I would have called them, killed my son and ruined our family life by selling him 4 or 5 stupid tablets.
Basic Productions are building the rave arena to rival all others. Put the heat back in the scene with Basic, to be held in Leeds starting on Friday the 20th.
Today, Sam took a brave step. He decided to set out details of his brother's E-network for the police. For operational reasons, we can't show the dealers involved, but Sam's list and our basic evidence has been passed to Scotland Yard as the raves go on.
There's more to come from Basic.
We get brought into the world to bury our mother and father, but not to bury the children. Not that age. For that reason. Okay, there's all sorts of reasons. People died like of the tablets, these ecstasy, just like a mark on us.